What's up, everybody? This is the Booch, and welcome to episode 7 of Boochcast Reviews, Darkside of the 2000s. And as you can tell, ladies and gentlemen, I'm in an unexpected situation. Because if you saw the end of last week's show, the gentleman over here insisted on being here today. We'll see how the fuck this goes. You know him at this point. You either love him or you hate him. There is no in between. Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Mr. Derek Shapiro.
Yes, sorry, the end of last week's episode, I had a long day DJing, and I fell asleep at the end. We recorded this nighttime, late night. Then when I finally got to my house, I went on my comfy chair, and then I felt relaxed. My body says, okay, time to shut off. But then I had a bound of energy at the end, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's why I said, I should come on this one too. Why not? I'm having fun.
Yes. This week, ladies and gentlemen, we are talking about something that gives you a deep insight into reality TV. And from an editing standpoint, it shows you, in my opinion, I learned something from watching this episode of Darkside of the 2000s. And that is this. For anyone who doesn't think that fake news is something that exists, go watch this episode. Watch this episode and then come back and tell me that fake news is just a hoax created by conservatives. I dare you to watch this episode and then come back and tell me fake news ain't possible. Because trust me, we're getting into it because we're talking this week about the longest running reality show of all time.
Wait, you said fake news is made up by conservatives?
Well, most of the time when you hear the term fake news in the media, it's usually conservatives that are the ones saying, like, CNN is fake news or this is fake news or whatever. And it's usually the liberals that get mad when you say something is fake news or that the press can't be trusted or mainstream media can't be trusted. And that's why I'm saying to those people who think that's bullshit, I challenge them to watch this because when we get into this, dude, let me tell you, I thought I knew reality TV. And then I saw this episode and holy shit, it blew my fucking mind about how easy it is to distort and manipulate the truth. And the reality show we're discussing this week is known as The Bachelor. Every rose has its thorn.
So wait, The Bachelor's fake?
To an extent, it's very staged. It's not as real as people think, and we're going to get into why.
Now, I did interview 2 years in a row, The Bachelor in Paradise. Jared Hayburn and Ashley Canetti, I don't know if you can look them up. They were on The Bachelor in Paradise. Every year, I didn't go this year, but every year at the mall in Rhode Island, they do a Toys for Tots around the holiday season. So I got to interview them, and now the husband and wife, they own a cafe in South Kingstown, Rhode Island, and believe it or not, they have karaoke there. I'm not a DJ there, but it's called Audrey's Cafe. Jared Hayburn is from Rhode Island, and his wife from The Bachelor in Paradise, Ashley Canetti, Italian name, but they're nice people, and they just had a baby, and I actually put the baby on my podcast last year, and Jared and Ashley that came for the Bachelor in Paradise, I graciously interviewed them 2 years in a row, so okay. I do have a Bachelor connection,
That's great. So in the early 2000s, the search for Prince Charming is repackaged for the new millennium in a show called The Bachelor. Now, it's all a romantic fairy tale, but one where competition, not love, conquers all. It's a game of love with a lot of pricks that becomes a modern-day tragedy. In 2002, what will become one of the longest-running reality shows, The Bachelor, debuts. And it's got everything. Romance and roses, conflicts and catfights, hope and heartbreak. That pretty much sums up The Bachelor if you've ever watched the show. Now, The Bachelor is a worldwide phenomenon with versions everywhere from the UK and Vietnam to Australia and Africa. So they do different versions of The Bachelor all over the world because it became popular. The series is the brainchild of American television producer Mike Fleiss, whose previous credits include 1997's World's Scariest Police Shootouts. So the guy who created the Police Shootout show produced The Bachelor. And here's what's interesting. Mike is the second cousin of famed Hollywood madam Heidi Fleiss.
Really?
He's related to Heidi Fleiss, the Hollywood madam, who was prosecuted for pandering back in the early 90s.
That's interesting.
Yes. Now, Heidi defended herself by saying it's illegal in one place and legal in other places. You could say that it's prostitution, but it's really maybe some of these girls want to marry these men. So she was literally like a madam that had high-priced escorts for guys and usually celebrities. In fact, one celebrity in particular, Zach and I are going to talk about next week, but I'll share that later. But yeah, he's related to Heidi Fleiss, which when you get to know Mike's personality, you find out they are truly related. You find out just how fucked up the Fleiss family really is. Now, Heidi's rationale may be the inspiration a decade later for Mike's Who Wants to Marry a Multi-Millionaire, a TV show that ends a live wedding between total strangers. Now, this was kind of like the prerequisite to The Bachelor. It was basically the spectacle of 50 wannabe trophy wives battling to marry Rick Rockwell, an unknown rich guy who's so salacious it's sparking controversy before it even airs.
Wow.
During this time, reality shows like this didn't exist yet. There was no reality shows about people getting married. Like nowadays, The Bachelor has been so popular, it's a regular thing. There's even the show that I admit I'm addicted to on Netflix called Love is Blind. It's kind of like the modern version of this, only different. But Love is Blind, that's my shit.
What about The Bachelorette? Do you watch The Bachelor? I never watched The Bachelorette, but did you watch The Bachelorette?
Never watched either one of them. Didn't care for it.
Wow.
Now, on February 15th, 2001, announcer Mark Thompson introduces the provocative show. More than 22 million people tune in to watch. Darva Conger from Thousand Oaks, California, is the woman who ends up winning the multi-millionaire contest.
Right.
But the spectacle isn't over. Soon after breathlessly saying, "I do," the newly minted Mrs. Rockwell begins screaming, "I don't." She wanted out immediately, and Rockwell's ex-girlfriend reveals she filed a restraining order against him, claiming he assaulted her. Now, Rockwell denies these claims. He said it never happened. Now, Darva got an annulment, and a media blitz began. So apparently within moments of saying "I do," she started finding out stuff about her rich husband that she didn't know before, and it makes her want to leave the marriage. Now, Fox blames Fleiss for failing to do a background check on Rockwell. So apparently it didn't bother to do a background check because back then background checks weren't really that big of a deal. Like today, it's more extensive than it's ever been. Like now they background check you for everything except in the wrestling business. Apparently in the wrestling business, we don't do a lot of background checks, but we really should. But all ABC sees are the huge ratings from Who Wants to Marry a Multi-Millionaire, and they hire Fleiss to recreate a reimagined version of that show called The Bachelor. So even though Fox canceled it and saw the controversy, ABC went, "Holy shit, that got a lot of ratings. We want something like that for our show." Jason Carbone is brought on to direct The Bachelor, and for Fleiss's right hand, he hires Lisa Levinson, a very successful and talented producer. Her producing style will later inspire a lead character on Lifetime Channel's Unreal. So, if you ever seen the show Unreal, it's a scripted show about the behind-the-scene going-ons at a Bachelor-esque dating reality series run by an immoral producer.
By the way, this is really unreal.
Yes, it is. Now, there's another producer involved, Michael Carroll, and he says while being interviewed on this Darkside episode, they said they had lots of tactics about how to make a girl cry on camera. Lisa taught the crew to go for the hot buttons, like their dad left them when they were 8 years old, or they got left at the altar, etc. Like they would ask these questions in interviews if they knew them about the person, because they have you fill out a whole questionnaire. So if they see something that they know will make you cry, the interviewers and the producers try to bring those up to get you to cry on camera. And that's what I meant by they manipulate shit.
Big girls don't cry, they don't cry.
Well, if you were on The Bachelor, you were going to cry while you're there. And if you don't cry enough, they're going to find a way to get you out, and then they're going to make you cry when you leave because you didn't get The Bachelor. So you better cry. So that's basically it. Crying was a big deal here. And they said they're going to find a way to get you off the show. And that's what I meant by they manipulate the show.
That's a crying shame.
Yes, but here's the thing. You think this Bachelor that's on the show is in control of this, but in reality, the producers are also in conjunction with everything, because usually when you're on a show and you're thinking about love, you're thinking about the girl you can spend the rest of your life with. All the producer cares about is who's going to make people tune in next week. They don't give a shit who you fall in love with. And that's the
Hey,
catch-22 of why this show, in reality, is a crock of shit.
like Aerosmith's song, I'm crying to forget you. I'm dying. Crying by Aerosmith.
Yes, exactly. But before production starts on season 1, Fleiss needs to find a real-life Prince Charming. One that meets ABC's stringent list of requirements. So if you want to be on The Bachelor, I'm assuming there's new seasons out, but if you want to be on The Bachelor, this is what's required to be The Bachelor. Here's what you need. Number 1.
Go Commando?
No, dumbass. All right, look. Number 1, you have to be handsome.
That's me.
Number 2, you have to be smart. So that leaves Derek out.
Oh, Booch! You got me good for that one.
Number 3, you have to be educated. So Zach's not on the show. He had to be the ultimate bachelor. You had to be that babe, that hunk, that catch where women would be like, oh my God. So you had to fit all these requirements in order to become the bachelor. You had to be a person that when you walk out on that screen, all those girls are getting wet the second they see you.
The moment I sing at my karaoke gigs, they say, oh my God.
You're forgetting the rest of that sentence. It's, oh my God, please make it stop. That's what they really say. Now.
And my jokes too, yeah. Dylan, you're loving this one. I know Dylan's loving this one.
Now, here's the thing though. The casting tapes they receive are mostly duds. One guy actually sent a dick pic before dick pics were even a thing. Like nowadays, when people send dick pics, it's still creepy if you're not asking for one, but also at the same time, it's the norm.
Right.
Like, oh my God, someone sent me a dick pic. Depending on the situation, it's not that shocking. But back then it was because dick pics weren't even a thing yet because we didn't have iPhones and shit yet in the early 2000s. I mentioned that before. The cell phone technology wasn't there to send a dick pic. You actually had to get a Polaroid camera, take a picture of your dick, and then mail it to somebody in order for someone to get a picture of your dick.
I got boob pics sent to me.
As have I. Now, Costello's team spent months submitting the best of the worst to ABC for approval. So basically, they go through the videos, see which ones they like, and then they go to ABC and go, anybody here that you approve of? Now, they would lay out pictures and write a bio for each one. And because of Fleiss's fiasco with Who Wants to Marry a Multimillionaire, there are things The Bachelor can't have. They all have to have a psych evaluation and background checks conducted by people that used to work for the FBI. So they would check to make sure you were not mentally ill. You had to be of sound mind. You had to make sure you had no criminal record or no record of major felonies, definitely no records of sexual assault, things of that nature. And also they had to have the medical exam. Make sure you don't have AIDS or STDs or some horrible medical condition that could be contagious or fatal. Now, they had a bachelor, but they lost him when they found out he had herpes.
I would do it.
Luckily, they had a friend who was a casting director for the Survivor, at the other reality show Survivor. And there was a guy that they had on there, and the Survivor guy's like, well, this guy's not great for my show, but I think he might be good for your show. Which, that's another key thing that can happen sometimes. You might not be the right fit for one show, but you might be a fit for another one. So he sends them the tape of a man by the name of Alex Michel, and he ends up being the season 1 Bachelor. So the first ever Bachelor was a Survivor reject. Because he auditioned for Survivor. Survivor decided this guy's not what we want. So they sent it to The Bachelor. The Bachelor goes, fuck it, we'll take him. Now on paper, the network loves Alex Michel. He's 31 years old. At the time of The Bachelor, he was 31. He's single, and he has degrees from both Harvard and Stanford. So he's well educated. Because Harvard and Stanford, throw in Yale, and he's the smartest man on the planet.
He's trying for Jeopardy.
Now, they loved his credentials, but the network needed him to lose weight and whiten his teeth. So there were a few issues with his look they need to have. So what they did was they put him in a hotel and they hire a personal trainer who puts him on the zone diet. They then send him to a dentist to get his teeth bleached. Now he looks perfect and they can focus on casting the women. So once they got the Bachelor right where they want him, now they focus on casting all the women.
Yeah, by the way, I did get my teeth whitening one time. I had a sponsor on my show like last year, and OMG, they lasered my teeth. It was one of the best situations, not because they lasered my teeth, but I was sitting next to another lady who was wearing leggings.
Now, here are the requirements for the women. Now, I need to put a disclaimer up here.
Yeah.
This may offend women who are butthurt and insecure, but just know this is the early 2000s, so standards are different. Like I said, political correctness did not exist yet, but here are the requirements, okay? The women had to be smart, beautiful, educated, and blonde.
Right. Blonde.
Because Mike loved blondes. So if you were blonde, you got on. But no fat, no ugly, no pimples. You had to look visibly appealing.
So Rosie O'Donnell or Roseanne Barr wouldn't be allowed.
She would not have been on this show. Now, to host the show, we've got our bachelor, we've got the women, now we need the host. And here's what I found interesting was how they casted the host. Because Fleiss wanted a nondescript nobody. They want someone who's just going to fly under the radar because he's not supposed to be the center of attention. Which is weird because that's usually the opposite of what you want a host to be. Usually when you have a host, the host is usually the star of the show.
Yeah.
You usually get a big celebrity. Here it's like the bachelor is meant to be the center of attention. So the host is just there, which I thought was very odd. Now they find just what they're looking for on a soon to be canceled game show that was being shot in a Minnesota shopping mall. So they had a game show in a Minnesota shopping mall and the man's name is Chris Harrison. So Chris Harrison becomes the host of The Bachelor. And again, he was on a game show that was called Mall Masters, and it was filmed at the Mall of America in Minnesota.
If you're listening to Minnesota, my cable show's on in Duluth, Minnesota. Charter Communications 189. So hello, Duluth. I got a lot of fans. You got a lot of fans in Duluth, too, because of me.
Yes. Now, the show was about the man and the women. Women who get grilled on every little detail of their private lives, like who has anorexia, who went through a breakup, who was a bridesmaid, who's a virgin, who fucks on a first date. Like, they look for those things about you and exploit them on the show to trigger a reaction. So now the producers take this intel and wield it like a weapon. And it's all designed to deliver the emotional collapse the show will soon demand. So that's why they're getting all this information about these women. Now, over the decades, dating shows have been one of TV's go-to formats. And it began in the 1960s with The Dating Game. That was the original dating show. And it featured some pre-fame celebrities before they got famous. For example, Farrah Fawcett, Arnold Schwarzenegger,
I'll be back.
Suzanne Summers.
Oh, the late Suzanne Summers. She just died.
And perhaps the worst catch ever, an active serial killer that was posing as a photographer. And of course, that's Rodney Alcala. This guy was a serial killer that went on The Dating Game and eventually got caught via The Dating Game. Almost 4 decades later, what will become TV's most successful dating show spends almost 12 months casting its first episode to air on ABC. So this is a long process before they even get to filming or a premiere. Now, while being interviewed by Reality, wanted the lady interviewer asks Mike if she should audition. He asked her about her herpes issue, and she says, "I got checked and I'm herpes free." Now, being STD free matters because The Bachelor is meant to be all about love and marriage, and Bad Boy executive producer Mike Fleiss expects a proposal on the finale.
Really?
Yes. He's expecting at the end of this for The Bachelor to drop to one knee and to tell one of these women, "Will you marry me?" That's the purpose of The Bachelor, is to get a proposal. Just like how on Love is Blind, the goal is for the couple to be married.
Right.
Because that's what Love is Blind is. You propose to someone before you even see what they look like. And then once they say yes, then you see what they look like. Then you try to live together, go through all these challenges and stuff. And then the end of it is you get to the altar. You're in the tuxedo, the wedding dress, your families are there. And you decide right there at the altar whether you're going to get married or whether you're going to walk away. Now, the formula was fascinating. All these women vying for one guy. Each week, The Bachelor, Alex Michel, will give a rose to the women he's still interested in while sending home the rest. That's why the title of this was called Every Rose Has Its Thorn, because The Bachelor and the rose are the key components.
Every rose has its thorn.
Yes. But that first night, while hope still springs eternal, all 25 women are loaded into limos and served alcohol for hours while the cameras get set up. So again, this is the inner workings of The Bachelor. So they're setting up the cameras to film the girls entering the house they're going to stay in while they shoot The Bachelor.
Interesting.
So while they're setting the cameras, they're in the limos and they're giving them alcohol. Why are they giving them alcohol? Because alcohol makes you do bad things.
It's all about the alcohol.
Yes. And if they had to use the bathroom, they had to pull the limo over and pee on the side of the road.
What about they take a shit?
Same thing. There's no outhouses anywhere near here. So they got to go on the side of the road because you can't be on the set because they're setting everything up. Plus, the Bachelor is not supposed to see you yet. Now, liquor isn't just relegated to the limos. There's plenty backstage in the control room. Mike Fleiss, Lisa Levinson, and Jason Carbone sat in the front line of the room and they drink beer and shots of Patron. So the people in the control room who are monitoring this shit, they're also getting drunk off their asses while the women are getting drunk off their asses. The only people that are sober at this point are the Bachelor, the host, and the camera crew. That's about it. Now, Mike Fleiss knew exactly what he wanted, and he had no qualms asking the team to give it to him. And what Fleiss wants is for his two favorites to get a rose. Now, keep in mind, this is the first season. The two women are Amanda and Trista. So those were the two women. If you watch the first season, Mike Fleiss was biased towards these two women. He wanted to make sure they stayed on the show as much as possible.
Yeah.
Now, they might not necessarily win, but the longer he can keep those two on the show, the happier he is. Now, Mike loved Trista, but Alex sees things differently because his early favorites are Kathy and Kim. So Mike and The Bachelor are on two different wavelengths. The producer wants these two people, but The Bachelor wants these two people. And again, this is why I say reality TV is not necessarily real. Because if this is a real show, and if we're following the correct format, then Alex should be allowed to choose whoever the fuck he wants. The Bachelor should have complete control over who he gives a rose to. Because you, the viewer, that's what you're thinking. When you're watching The Bachelor, you're assuming anybody that gets a rose, Alex is making these choices. Now, even though Amanda and Trista aren't on Alex's radar, he doesn't seem to be the one calling the shots, as I've clearly mentioned before. Mike and Lisa constantly argued with the network on which women should stay and which should go. But there's one thing everyone agrees on. They need to appear inclusive. Yeah, the word that, especially in 2024, everybody loves to use and does more harm than good. Inclusive. Not the most qualified people, not the best person for the job. No, inclusive, that's important. It's like, fuck off. I don't care if a cast is diverse. I care if the cast is talented. That's what I'm looking for in any show. I'm not looking at color. I'm not looking at gender. I'm not looking at sexual orientation. I am looking at, does the cast of characters work for this show? That's what matters to me. And I even take that logic to my show. For example, I've had black people on my show in the past. Jerry Truman, Lance Goodman, Goth Batty. I've had black people on the show. But I didn't have them on the show because they were black. I had them on the show because they were talented and they just happened to be black. That's where diversity matters. It should not be a primary focus. A focus should be on who can get the job done. And if the person that gets the job done happens to be black or Indian or Asian or a woman or gay or trans, then you bring them on the show because they're that damn good. Jerry Truman and I have amazing chemistry and we've been the best of friends for 16 years. That's why he was on this show. Lance Goodman, when it comes to football, he knows his shit. That's why I have him on the show. Goth Batty, before we had the falling out, she was very good politically. She had a great mind. We had great chemistry when we spoke. So I loved having her on the show. I've also had Rhiannon on the show, a woman. But it's not because she was a woman. It's because she knew wrestling and we've been friends for 20 plus years. I had Zach on the show, not because I needed ginger, but because Zach knew his shit and was talented and I loved having him on. Derek, I don't have him here because he's Jewish. I have him here because he begged me to be on this episode, so that's why he's here. But that's beside the point. My point is, diversity should not be the primary thing you look for. It's who's the best and who is the most qualified. Always. Period. Okay. Now, in the cast, there was one black girl named Lanice. Now, she was the only one out of the 25 that were there. So diversity was not a primary focus for the show.
No.
So basically there's 25 girls, 24 are white, and you got one black girl named Lanice. So on March 25th, 2002, The Bachelor premieres on ABC. So it was March 25th, 2002 that we, the public, finally got to see the show. Now, TVC critics pan it. They call it debasing, desperate, depressing, dull, and dopey, which I'll be honest, I had a few of those opinions myself. It was also viewed as mean as 24 women get rejected and their hearts broken. So they're looking at it like, this is a mean thing to do. I'm like, how is it mean? The guy is choosing who he wants to be with. Like, to me, it's only mean if you're a dick about it while you're rejecting them.
Right.
That's the only way it's mean. But if you're just being honest, like, look, I'm sorry, these are the women I connected with. And most of the time on these reality shows, unless there's like real tension between somebody, usually they're polite in the rejection. Like, I'm sorry, you didn't make this round. I wish you the best of luck. And sometimes the guy's real nice about it, but the girl might be like, fuck you and all that shit. I've seen it happen.
You know how many times I got rejected when I went to the club when I was a teenager or in my early 20s? I said, hey, are you single? And they said, okay, get away from me.
Now, viewers seem to love watching hearts get broken. And that is a key thing about reality TV and why it's so successful. Like, people ask all the time, why do people watch reality TV? Why does these things get so many ratings? Why are these people so popular? I'm gonna tell you exactly why. Here's the reality of reality TV. People love
misery
to watch failure.
Yeah.
We like watching other people's lives go into the toilet. You like watching these women yell and scream and cuss and fight each other. You love watching the rejection of the heart getting broken. You like seeing all the failures on TV. And the reason people love to see failure is because it makes them feel better about their own shitty lives.
Mm-hmm.
That's the truth. For example, that news media show, not news media, but it's one of the I think it's like Newsroom or something with
Jeff Daniels.
Yes, Jeff Daniels. And he says, we used to aspire to greatness. We didn't belittle it. It didn't make us feel inferior. And that sums up the 2000s. People make fun of other people on TV because it makes them feel better about their shitty lives. Like, because seeing people do better than you makes you feel inferior. It used to be like in the 90s, people used to say, I want to be like Mike, like Michael Jordan. You saw Michael Jordan and you were like, wow, I want to be good like him. Now people see famous celebrities and they're like, who the fuck you think you are? That's the mentality. Or you ain't better than me. Which, by the way, I've learned something 37 years on this planet. If someone looks at you and says, you're not better than me, you're better than them. Trust me. If you had to tell somebody they're not better than you, chances are they're better than you. I've learned that.
Really?
I have learned that statistically.
Why?
Because usually the people that have that attitude are usually people who live really sad, pathetic, shitty lives. The people who are doing well, they already fucking know. It's like if you're great, people will tell you. If you're good, you'll tell other people. That kind of thing. So 9.9 million people watched the debut episode of The Bachelor. That's how high the ratings were. They had 9.9 million viewers. They knew while shooting it that it was going to be a hit. That's because the formula nails the dating tropes. That's another secret to The Bachelor's success. For example, there's a Rodeo Drive shopping spree, or what producers call the pretty woman date.
Right.
Because if you saw the movie Pretty Woman, you know, one of the things is Julia Roberts on Rodeo Drive. When Richard Gere takes her there and buys her all the stuff. Sometimes she goes shopping on her own, like that kind of thing, because she's walking down Rodeo Drive. That's a famous scene in the movie. There's also a cliche gondola kiss. Like, you know, when they're on the gondola with the guy rowing the boat, doing the fancy Italian singing. It's like, Verde Magnore, and go ahead, I don't look. Lanice, she was the one that did the gondola kiss with Alex. And the green-eyed monster tags along on a group date.
Right.
So these are all the kind of dates. Now, tensions and ratings build to the finale when Alex, perhaps unsurprisingly, ends up choosing between Mike Fleiss's original favorites, Amanda and Trista. So Amanda and Trista end up making it to the finals. So bear in mind, these were the two people the producer wanted. Not who Alex originally wanted. These are the two people the producer wanted. So that tells you right there that to a degree, Alex is not in control. And obviously, we, the viewers at the time, don't know this. Because reality TV is a lot like professional wrestling. In the sense, back in the day of professional wrestling, like the 70s, the 80s, the 60s, like way back then, they made you believe that what you saw in the ring was real. Even if you knew it was scripted, you still believed in it because they made you believe. Because they lived their gimmicks 24/7. They did things to make you believe in what you were seeing. You didn't know that it was manipulated behind the scenes. Because if you knew, you wouldn't go watch. If you knew the two guys that hate each other in the ring were best friends in real life, you wouldn't go see the fight because you'd have no emotional investment. If you knew at the time The Bachelor came out that Amanda and Trista were the producers' favorites, would you watch season 2?
No.
I wouldn't. You'd be like, this is rigged. This is fixed. Now, in the end, he chooses Amanda. So Amanda ends up winning. Even though Mike leaned more towards Trista than Amanda, he ends up choosing Amanda. But the real winner is ABC because the Bachelor finale grows to double the first episode's ratings with over 18 million viewers. The exact number is 18.2. So it's 18.2 million viewers. So they had 9.9 on episode 1. By the finale, it's 18.2. Now, nobody expected it to be that big of a hit, especially considering Alex Michelle wrecks the happily ever after ending by not proposing to Amanda.
Interesting.
So that's the thing. He chooses Amanda, but he doesn't propose to her.
Why?
Because he says to Amanda, I want to see if we can have a real relationship outside of the show with no cameras before we make a serious commitment to each other. And Amanda agreed.
He never proposes.
No, they stay together. They have a relationship, but he doesn't propose because he said, look, I love you. I want to be with you, but let's find out if we can actually have a real life together before I propose to you. Because here's the thing, even though you're having all these great dates, once you leave The Bachelor, you're not going to have that kind of life 24/7, 365. Because The Bachelor's not going to pay for the rest of your life. You're just going to get the salary you get for working there. But the reason you're able to go on these trips is because ABC is paying for it.
Mm-hmm.
They're paying for the gondola rides. They're paying for the rodeo drive. They're covering all these expenses. But once you leave the show, if you want to go on those trips, you got to spend your own money. Now, after the show, Alex and Amanda hit the red carpets. So now they're going to premieres. They're celebrities now. But they break up when Amanda discovers Alex is still in touch with Trista. So it turns out he was still talking to Trista. I don't know if they hooked up or anything, but he was still kind of talking to her, and Amanda didn't like it, so she breaks up with him. Now, still, The Bachelor and ABC are a match made in heaven, and casting soon starts for season 2. So now they're gearing up for the next season. And the producers have developed a formula by now. They stick to the archetypes. The bimbo hoe, the ditzy girl that everyone can make fun of, and a good time girl who's got it and is not afraid to flaunt it. So now they're trying to go for different types of girls. The easy and the hard to get, like mixing it up.
That's kind of good.
Now, one of those women was Kathy Jo Higgins, who was on the 4th season of The Bachelor.
Yeah.
Now, Kelly Jo's pursuit of Bachelor Bob Guinea, because that's who the season 4 Bachelor was, is helped along by 2 producers who prod her to get the first kiss. So again, this is the producers manipulating the show. So she's going for the first kiss because they're telling her to, not because she necessarily wants it. But following the producer's advice makes Kelly Jo a target for a nasty blogger calling himself Reality Steve. And she often referred to her as Kelly Ho. And again, I talked about this a few weeks ago on the TMZ episode about how in the 2000s, bloggers were a really big thing. And they were out to just humiliate and degrade anybody and everybody.
Right.
But still, there are worse things you can be called on The Bachelor than just a hoe. Turns out, you know what the worst thing you can be called on The Bachelor is? The villain. In fact, on VH1, they actually have a reality show devoted to all the villains of classic reality shows that were like notorious for being the assholes, which I still can't believe Kate from John and Kate's not on there because she's the most despicable out of all of them. But the title went to a woman named Trish Snyder, who was on season 5 of The Bachelor. That season features 25-year-old New York Giants backup quarterback Jesse Palmer. So he was the Bachelor for season 5, was Jesse Palmer. And he's finally getting a chance to throw passes because, like I said, he was a backup quarterback. So he didn't play much in the NFL. Now, Trish was a professional model who rubs the other women the wrong way as soon as she unpacks. Because in her bag, she had a t-shirt that said Gold Digger on it.
Now, that's a key point. That's a key point because how would you rub a woman? Counterclockwise or clockwise? You don't want to rub the woman the wrong way.
Now, she claims she brought the shirt to be funny.
Right.
Because she was wearing it ironically, like she wanted to be funny. funny. She thought it would be comedic. But instead, all the women are thinking, oh, you're just after Jesse for his money. You don't really love him. And whether she does or doesn't, I don't fucking know. But if she brought it to be funny, then okay. Now, the producer said she was great TV and easy to produce, which meant that you could puppet master her into saying what you wanted. And that's a key thing. The easier that you are to work with, the more camera time you're going to get.
That makes sense.
And for most people who are on a reality show, that's the key thing you want, is as much camera time as possible. Because then that's how you get famous. But just remember, fame without money is a fucking waste.
True.
Now, this was the case with all the girls in this season. And if that fails, the producers use the old standby, booze. So that's their plan. Basically, they can't get you to talk more or say what they want. They just get you drunk and then turn on the camera.
So, yeah, I mean, you could get your partner drunk and you could really turn on the camera, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Now, alcohol played a major part in people getting comfortable and offering to share more. Alcohol always played a part in what happens behind the cameras. The crew were pressured to drink, and Fleiss would get mad if you didn't because he felt you were not having a good enough time. And Mike Fleiss feeling you're not having a good enough time can be scary, even for the show's Prince Charming. And this is where I have a problem. I'm going to say this right now. If you're one of those people that needs alcohol in order to have a good time, you're an asshole.
See, thing is, when I got intoxicated in Georgia, right? The time that I disrespected you, you know I don't need alcohol to have a good time. I'm one of the people that if I do drink alcohol, I mess up a good time.
Yes, Zach is the same way. That's why he doesn't drink around the team anymore. Elvis can drink and be mellow about it, so I'm cool with him drinking. Desmond rarely gets drunk. The meanest thing he's ever done drunk is he goes on rants about how much he hates Goldberg. And I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I've never been drunk before. I've been to parties. I've been drunk. When I was on the regular guys, we had a lot of parties, and Southside Steve would get me drunk when I went to his bar, but then he would put me in his truck and give me a room at the Best Western to sleep it off. So he always took care of me after he got me drunk. So I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I've never partied. I have. But I only partied few and far between, and I don't need alcohol to have a good time. The bottom line is this. If I'm not comfortable around people, I don't need alcohol to loosen up. It's because I don't trust you. It's that simple. I can be comfortable around people that I trust. So if I'm not comfortable around you, it's because I don't trust you.
Right.
And until I do, no amount of alcohol is going to make me comfortable around you. And if you're one of those people that needs to be drunk in order to have a good time, you have a problem. You need to get help.
Like a lot of girls that go on dates with her, even that girl I brought down to Georgia, she needed to drink just to have a good time. We'll go bowling, for goodness sake, in Tennessee on the way back.
Yeah.
And we're having a date. She needs to drink to have a good time. Why do a lot of girls need to drink to have a good time?
Here's the thing. They drink to have a good time, and then they make stupid decisions, and then they never take personal accountability. It's like, if you don't want to end up in stupid situations, don't drink.
Exactly.
You know, if you make bad decisions when you're drunk, why the fuck are you getting drunk? And then laughing about it or thinking it's funny until you make a really stupid choice. Like, to me, I don't glorify getting drunk. I don't understand why, as a society, we do. Because it's one of those things, it starts off fun, it always ends in disaster. Because after a certain point, you go from being the fun party guy to a sad drunk. The older you get, the less cool you look. That's the truth.
Exactly.
And I'm sorry, but being drunk is not an accomplishment. It's not cool. I don't enjoy it. And I think people who glorify it, there's something mentally wrong with you.
Thank you.
I don't endorse that. So having a good time, I'm having a good time.
Right.
Alcohol, if anything, will make the day worse for me. So I'll stay here with my soda. You have your Patron and let me do my fucking job, please.
Thank you.
I hate that shit. Now, at the start of the 2000s, Jennifer Aniston is showing off a $500,000 engagement ring designed by future ex-husband Brad Pitt. Because during this time, this is when Jennifer Aniston and Brad Pitt were together before the Angelina Jolie scandal and all that. Now, for beautiful young women across the country green with envy, The Bachelor offers a chance to color their world. So now people are seeing Jennifer Aniston with this engagement ring, and they want to get on The Bachelor because they want that beautiful ring too. They want that love and feeling. They want that. Now, the women were head over heels falling in love on the show. So the women are falling in love with this Bachelor. That's why it's so hurtful when they get sent home, because they're legit falling in love, which is easy to do when the producers are flying you to an Alaskan glacier, chartering private yachts, and dangling a 2-carat ring in front of you. Like, it's easy to fall in love when you're going to all these romantic places, because these romantic places are designed to help you fall in love. That's why when you go on dates, you take women to romantic places, because it sets the mood. And it's all the producer's master plan. They call it the Bachelor bubble. They're creating the perfect bubble, and it begins before shooting starts. Hotel TVs and phones are stripped from the cast rooms. And after the women check in, the producers don't give them any keys. They literally lock you in a hotel room, and you're not allowed to leave the room, and you're not allowed to talk to each other until shooting starts. So you're locked in a room. You don't see the other women. You definitely don't see the Bachelor. So they keep you secluded, and they get rid of your phones and your devices so you can't talk to people and give shit away. That's why they're very strict on stuff like that. And it's also why they make you sign NDAs when you're on reality shows. I remember when I did Daytime Fighting League, after we shot the show, which was shot over the course of 4 days, we all had to sign NDAs stating we would not reveal who the winner was, because it would fuck up the show when it would air later that year. Here's another key thing. Everyone's luggage is searched on The Bachelor, and everything bad is taken out. Now, bad, they mean if you got a cell phone in your bag, they're taking it. If you got a computer or a laptop, they're taking it. If you got drugs, they're taking it. If you got magazines, they take that. If you got books, they take that. They're confiscating anything that they believe will be detrimental to the show, because they don't want you to have a cell phone, because again, you can't call nobody. They don't want you on a computer because they don't want access to the internet. Obviously, they don't want drugs. They don't want people drugged up. Alcohol's fine, but no drugs. And they don't want you with magazines and books because they don't want you to be sitting in a corner reading a book when you're supposed to be trying to get the Bachelor to fuck you. So the room has no TV, news, or music. You don't even have a pen to write anything. This way, the women chosen on night one move into their villa with zero distractions. But even though they're in the bubble, they're definitely not alone here. They have camera people who are there 24 hours a day. They have constant surveillance, and scrutiny help fuel rivalries and narrows everyone's attention. So once you're in there, there's cameras following you. That's the price of reality TV. There's a camera there. They got surveillance constantly. They're interchanging crew members. Like, someone is filming 24/7 in that house. Now, all they talked about is the Bachelor and how they loved him and who they felt had the best shot. And it psychologically made them idol worship. That's all you're allowed to talk about in the house, is how much you love the Bachelor. Now, everything that is done on the show is meant to create an emotion. It's good for entertainment, but bad psychologically. Either way, the Bachelor bubble works on Kelly Jo. She genuinely fell in love with Bob and thought he was going to choose her. So Kelly Jo is falling in love and truly believes she's going to win. But in the finale, the bubble bursts because Bob breaks up with Kelly Jo, and he ends up giving Estella, the last woman standing, a promise ring. So again, there's no proposal. He's doing the old school promise ring. Like, I promise to get you an engagement ring at some point down the road. Again, let's see where this goes. Now, Kelly was upset, but on the next season of The Bachelor, it's executive producer Mike Fleiss's turn to be upset when Bachelor Jesse refuses to give the show villain and fan favorite Trish a rose. Mike was furious and said, we got to find a way to keep her on the show. Jason said, we can't. She just got eliminated. And Mike says, figure it out. Again, manipulation of the show. The Bachelor's not in control here. Now, luckily for Jason, Trish also wants to stay on the show. So Trish doesn't want to leave. So she said, let me go have a conversation with him. But merely talking with Jesse doesn't work for the producers. They demand something more titillating. They give her a key and said they'll let Trish return after her elimination, but only if she asks Jesse to spend the night with her. So now they want Trish to seduce Jesse.
Right.
So she gives him the room key. Trish said she did it because it was part of the plan. So this is all part of their plan. And Jason was able to give Mike what he was looking for, which in turn gives Jason job security. So that's how they were able to do it. They were able to convince her to be like, hey, here's the room key. Ratings go nuts. And if you were good at making a contestant cry or stirring up drama, you're staying on the show. Again, they care more about the ratings and less about this Bachelor actual finding love. And again, that's why if you knew all this, the show would suck. You fake sympathy and you go for the jugular. The women started to feel insecure and it was not good. But it was effective, according to former contestant Kim Sullivan, who has this to say about her exit interview. The producers told her, I mean, your dad had an affair and your best friend killed herself. So this is just one more thing that you can add to your list of disappointments. That's what they said to her as she's leaving. But while crying on screen might last just a few moments, appearing on The Bachelor can cause lasting damage. So now these women are being fucked psychologically because of how desperate they are to keep the ratings up. Now, the women struggled to get work after the show, especially Trish, who was told she was too recognizable. Wow. Which, I'm going to say this right now. Trish was a professional model.
Right.
So you model certain things. The whole purpose of being a model is to get people to open a magazine and read, right? Or watch a video. How is being too recognizable a horrible thing for a fucking model? What? I mean, unless they're saying she's too recognizable and she's hated, that's one thing. But she was a fan favorite. You're telling me you're not going to hire Trish? Are you crazy? I want a recognizable person. You know why?
Why?
Because if I got a recognizable woman in my magazine, people are going to buy my magazine. If she's showcasing my product, people are more likely to buy my product. This is literally the early stages of social media influencing. Shit like this, it's like the Kardashians. Kim Kardashian is an untalented hoe, but people will have her endorse her product because if she endorses a product, people will buy it because people are easily manipulated by Kim Kardashian.
Now, there you go. You should have Kim Kardashian promote the Boochcast.
I would sell out for that because I know that would get hits. It's called business.
Yeah.
Now, this is a big financial hit for Trish, who, like the other women, don't get paid to be on The Bachelor. That's the funny thing. The women don't get paid. There's only 3 people who get paid for The Bachelor. The Bachelor, the host, and the camera crew. That's it. The women don't make a dime.
And the guys don't make a dime either.
No, the guy does. The Bachelor does.
Really?
The Bachelor gets paid. The host of the show is getting paid. And the camera crew, they get paid as well. But the women that are on this show do not make money, which is considered unfair, especially since the women must take 6 weeks off of work and supply their own wardrobe.
Wow.
So that's the thing. When you're on The Bachelor, you got to take time off to do the show. Now, Love is Blind operates a little differently. For example, Love is Blind, the only time you need to take time off for is the time you spend dating in the pods and the time you spend on the honeymoon afterwards. Because they usually go to some tropical island. Once you meet the person that you've been talking to, you kind of go on this tropical island vacation to kind of get to know each other better. And some of the couples end up hooking up. Some of them don't. Some of them wait a little while, whatever. But once you're done leaving that tropical paradise, what they do is they bring you back to the real world. And they have these little condo areas where you live in to test living together. And when you come back to the real world, that's when they give you back your phones. That's when they give you back your devices and everything. But also, you can go back to work at your job and they would film you around your work schedule. And the reason they do that is because that's how you test whether or not you can be in a real relationship. Because now you got to balance work and a lifestyle. But in The Bachelor, you're taking 6 weeks off to film. Now, there's another gentleman named Lorenzo Borges, Borghese. He is the Bachelor from season 9. He is voted the worst Bachelor in the history of the show.
Really?
Yes, he's the worst Bachelor in the history of the show. Now, ABC initially jumped at the chance to cast Lorenzo because he's a prince. He's from a legit royal family. He's a prince. So they're thinking, oh my God, this is perfect. Because he's a prince from Italy who's living in New York and was single, and he knew they were going to play up on it, and they did. Now, Lorenzo got burned for it, and ABC feels they did too. In fact, they pulled the season off the channel, and Lorenzo is fine with it because if he is the worst Bachelor, that just means he's really bad at lying to girls and dating 25 of them at one time. But season 9 isn't the only thing ABC and The Bachelor producers are trying to hide, because ABC's The Bachelor is a massive hit. It has millions of fans who proudly identify as part of the Bachelor Nation. But the show has become a favorite punchline, including for David Spade on funnyordie.com and SNL, who roast the boring and bland men cast as The Bachelor. So SNL's making fun of it. David Spade's making fun of it. It becomes the butt of a joke because these dating shows tend to be a joke. They're embarrassing to watch. But ABC gets the last laugh. After 8 seasons, The Bachelor still gets almost 10 million viewers a week. So not just an episode, a week. Every week, there's 10 million people. Lorenzo had never seen The Bachelor aside from a couple of minutes of an episode, and he hated it. So Lorenzo hated The Bachelor.
Right.
But a little ego stroking by producers goes a long way. They convinced him that this was his show and he was the star. But when the entire production moves to Italy, where Lorenzo has never lived, like he's a prince of Italy, but he never lived there. And the reality of what he signed up for finally hits him. He had to walk down the street with a rose and he felt stupid. He didn't like cameras and it was very awkward. So they picked a bachelor who doesn't like to be on camera, which is the worst thing you can do. Because I've said it before and I'll say it again. If you're not comfortable being on camera, then you shouldn't be on camera because it's going to look bad.
Right.
See, I'm comfortable on camera, so I don't give a shit. You're comfortable on camera, so you don't give a shit.
Right.
Now, he wishes he could have gotten out of it, but he had already signed up, and the contract you sign when you agree to be on The Bachelor allows producers to violate your right to privacy, cause emotional distress, and portray you in a false light. That's literally in the contract. They're basically saying they can manipulate the scene to do whatever they want. That's fake news, ladies and gentlemen. That is fake news.
Mm-hmm.
They can portray you in a false light. They have the right to fuck with you if you sign up for this. And that, to me, is fucking disgraceful. Now, Lorenzo felt like he was in a mental prison because he couldn't do what he wanted to do. But the producers can, including taking everything you say in interviews and edit it any way they want to make it sound like you said things you didn't. Again, that is fake news. This goes back to what I said at the beginning. And you don't believe me, CNN did that to John Cena back in 2007 when the whole Chris Benoit thing went down. And John Cena said, I don't use steroids, but they edited a soundbite to make it sound like he was confessing to it. And they demanded an apology, but CNN didn't give one because they have the right to use that footage however they want. And that's why to this day, I still say, fuck CNN. Forever and ever till the end of time. And I'll say fuck The Bachelor too, because they do that. And here's the thing, in Unreal, the fictional series based on The Bachelor depicts how far producers can push it. And they literally, you watch them actually editing a footage in the video to make this woman seem like she's confessing to something she didn't do. And the editing is so perfect. It's like the type of editing I would do on the Boochcast outside of portraying things in a false light. But I can time stuff to cut out certain words or certain stuttering to make it sound like a person speaking coherent. When in reality, that person was going, I. But I'll edit to make it seem like I went to the movies. But during the recording, that person was going, I went to the movies. And the girl I went with was very nice. And the film was fantastic. But I'll edit it and go, I went to the movies. And the girl I went with was very nice. And the film was fantastic. That's how you'll hear it in the playback. You won't hear all the stuttering. I'm good at cutting that shit out. But yeah, that was fucked up. In fact, here's the clip.
The house is full of amazing women. There's no backstabbing. Nobody's calling each other liars. We all feel blessed. Especially me. That's backstabbing, liars, blessed. This house is full of backstabbing liars, especially me.
Now, Jason defends this by saying, we're making content, we're making entertainment, and they know what they signed up for. And when the episodes finally air, there's hate and bullying from the viewers to contend with. So basically, they're saying, we're making an entertainment show. They know what they signed up for. Do they? Do they really? And also, if you're getting joy out of fucking with people's lives like that, you're a piece of shit.
Exactly.
That's why people in Hollywood don't get a lot of respect, and it's why shows like this don't get respect. And here's the thing. When I learned this, it makes me question every reality show person I ever shit on in my life. Now, obviously, at the time, I didn't have a podcast to do it on. I would do it like with my friends in public. But now I'm starting to think, was this person really an asshole, or did you just make it that way? Or is this person really nice and sweet? Or did you just make it that way? Because again, once this aspect of reality TV is exposed, it kills the show. Because we don't know what's genuine and what's not. You claim this is about a guy finding love, when really it's about you guys just making noise. And The Bachelor is literally just a boy toy. He's a puppet on a string. And you're the puppet masters, which means your show ain't shit. And after years of ignoring the problem, The Bachelor tries to stop the vitriol by addressing it openly on an episode of its companion show, The Women Tell All. This is the actual show. But it's too little and 18 years too late for Lanice, the sole black contestant in season 1. The bullying was so intense and racist that Lanice turned to pills and was hospitalized. But she's considered one of the lucky ones. So apparently she went through so much racism and stress that she ended up turning to drugs. That's a fucking shame because she doesn't deserve that. Now, after over 2 decades on the air, there's no denying ABC's The Bachelor is one of the most successful television series ever. At its heart and core, it's a love story. But at the end of the day, people want to see drama, as I mentioned before. People are more drawn to drama and failure than love and success. And that's why these reality shows are so trashy. Because they're giving you, the viewer, what you really want deep down. If you want to see good, clean, wholesome content, then that's where you need to put your focus. Because TV follows the money. Wherever you put the money, that's where it goes. That's why Bill Burr said that these shows get more attention than things like the WNBA or female empowerment. Because you ladies are more concerned with tearing each other down than building each other up.
Exactly.
That's why the shows that tear you all down get more attention. Because that's where your focus is.
Right.
Now, people love watching the train wreck. But after all the turmoil and unhappy endings, executive producer Mike Weiss finally gets the results he always wanted when Sean Lau proposes to Catherine Giudice. So he finally get a proposal on The Bachelor. And for the first time ever, The Bachelor marries the woman who received the final rose. And guess what? It took 17 seasons to get the proposal.
Wow.
So for 16 seasons, The Bachelor never ended with a proposal, but season 17 did. The show's phenomenal success right from the start leads ABC to spin it off into The Bachelorette, which Derek mentioned earlier. Bachelor Pad, that's another show. Bachelor in Paradise, which you interviewed those people on.
Jared and Ashley.
Jared and Ashley, yes. And many others. And these shows make The Bachelor look like family-friendly entertainment. So basically, if we thought The Bachelor was bad, turns out these are even worse. Because on Bachelor Pad, bullying is all part of the fun. Like when men are asked to throw paint at the least attractive women. There's also trouble in Paradise when 2 on-set producers lodge formal complaints regarding a female contestant being too drunk to give sexual consent. Demario Jackson was accused of sexually assaulting Corinne Olympios during a taping. Production shut down during the investigation, and Demario was ultimately cleared of any misconduct. Now, here's the part where I'm probably going to piss some people off, but I'm just going to say this. If you, the individual, man or woman, I don't care which one it is, if you get drunk on your own accord, if you are at the bar and you're doing shots and you're drinking booze and you're just pouring it down your throat and getting incredibly fucked up and intoxicated, no one's buying you drinks and forcing you to, no one's putting pills in your drink, or if you got a non-alcoholic beverage and someone spiked it, if that happens to you, it's a different story. But if you're actively getting drunk and you know you're getting drunk and you have sex with a guy, that guy should not be charged with anything. Because I don't give a fuck who you are, how old you are, or where you come from. We all know at this point that alcohol fucks with your brain and fucks with your body. You know the side effects of alcohol at this point in your life.
Yes.
And if you're too stupid to not know your limits, then that's your problem, not someone else's. Like I said, it's one thing if someone spikes your drink and then has sex with you. Okay, that person should be charged with sexual assault because they're getting you fucked up when you don't want to be. But if you're making the choice to get fucked up, then you don't get to blame somebody for having sex with you while you were drunk because you got yourself fucking drunk.
Thank you.
We got you drunk. You got you drunk. So you should just wake up the next day, look at the guy's body, go, Jesus Christ, what have I done? And take your walk of shame. And I'm sorry if that offends you, but those are facts. They don't care about your feelings. But for the first time ever, the Bachelor in Paradise bar is no longer all you can drink. The rules now state it is 2 drinks per hour max. Finally, some common sense. Because now they realize with this controversy, we got to cut back. So now they're making sure everybody limits their alcohol intake, which is what you should do as a grown fucking adult. The fact that they have to do this for you just means you're fucking stupid.
Right.
And on The Bachelorette, Becky Steenhoek, a former segment producer, alleges 5 other producers sexually harassed her on set. They would ask her if she ever had anal or oral sex or how she shaved herself. Okay, here's my question. Are they asking you this as being interviewed on camera, or are they asking you this off camera?
Probably off camera.
And also, I don't see how asking a question is sexual harassment. Someone asking you, hey, have you ever had anal sex? Just say yes or no. Now, if you say yes or no, and that ends the conversation, like, okay, now if they say, have you ever had anal sex? And you go, no, and they're like, would you like to? And then you're like, no. But if they keep pursuing you or they're hitting on you and you're not interested, yes, that's sexual harassment. That's being harassed. But asking you a question is not harassment. Now, if they ask you a question, you answer it, and they keep annoying you, that's different.
Right.
So people need to know the difference between actual harassment. You're on a show where you're encouraged to be slutty. And after 17, 18 seasons, you know the deal by now. So don't get shocked when they ask you perverted questions on a reality show that is literally designed to make you be perverted. Who don't know this at this point? Critics accuse the Bachelor franchises of being morally bankrupt. It has made a lot of people very rich, including creator Mike Fleiss, whose net worth is $140 million. That's his net worth. But many former cast members are paying the price for being on the show, some with their lives. For example, fan favorite Gia Alamad, Bachelorette contestant Julian Hug, and The Bachelor's Lex McAllister all committed suicide from being on the show.
That's not good.
And Lex's friend and co-worker blames the show. Now, even if cast members have mental health issues prior to being on the show, being brainwashed, manipulated, gaslit, rejected, and ridiculed by internet trolls is bound to take its toll. So they said, regardless of whether you were mentally ill before you got on the show or not, you're going to end up being mentally ill by the time you leave, because that shit can fuck with you. Now, back then, we didn't know it, because back then, people didn't pay attention to mental illness. It wasn't a thing. But now, between all the shit we hear about with reality shows and all the shootings that happen and all the other crazy shit, mental health is now being something that is at the forefront of society now. And people are actually taking it seriously. Sadly, back then, they didn't. Now, some people accept this and consider it normal. Some don't. Like Bachelor and Bachelorette alum Caitlin Bristow claims Mike Fleiss hates women. A statement she made even before security footage leaks of Fleiss allegedly assaulting his wife. Now, Fleiss denies the attack, but pays his wife $10 million in the separation agreement. She then drops the charges and they reconcile. So I guess if they got back together, no reason to worry about it. Like, she ain't gonna kill him. What am I gonna kill him for? Meanwhile, Bachelor Nation seems as strong as ever. After decades of lawsuits, scandals, petitions, and accusations of sexism, on the night of the season 27 finale, Bachelor creator Mike Fleiss, seemingly out of nowhere, announces he's stepping down. But it turns out Fleiss didn't jump, he was pushed. Turns out Mike doesn't want to leave. He's being forced to leave because the allegations of not only bullying, but also racism may have finally caught up with Fleiss. Still, the Bachelor franchise shows no signs of slowing down or fundamentally changing. Jason said he didn't have a problem with what they did on the show, but wouldn't let his daughter go on there. He said he will let the audience decide what he means by that.
It's like, you know how you want to watch a movie. It's good enough for you, but it's not good enough for my daughter. You protect your kids in a way, you know?
Here's my interpretation of that. I think he's saying that he knows that the girls get treated horribly, but because those women are not his daughter, he doesn't give a fuck. That's the impression I got. Like, I have no problem manipulating, gaslighting, and fucking with the minds of these women because I don't care about them. But I know how bad it is, so I would never let my daughter be subjected to this. Because basically, I love my daughter, but I don't give a shit about the rest of the women. That's my interpretation.
Is he the owner of the show, or is he the exec producer?
Jason was one of the producers.
Okay, so he's not the owner, but...
No, Mike Fleiss was the owner.
Okay, he's working for the thing. He sees the bad stuff happening sometimes, right? Fights, whatever. So it's like he's working. He may not like it, but he's working for ABC. He's working for that show. He's getting money. But I get it. He won't want his daughter on there because certain things you had to do for living, but you don't want your kids a part of.
Yeah. Like guys like going to strip clubs.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they like seeing naked girls dance on a pole. But just because you like seeing naked girls dance on a pole, at the same time, you're like, there's no way I want my daughter up there.
Exactly.
But yeah, overall, like I said, I knew reality shows were trashy, but I had no idea how bad. And like, basically, this is the truth. They call it reality TV, but it's not reality. I mean, and obviously, to an extent, I know when it comes to reality TV that certain things have to be somewhat staged. Like if you're going to a certain place, obviously, you got to have cameras set up. You got to have permits to film there. You got to do certain things to get the scene and get the shot. But what makes it reality TV is the fact that there's no script.
Exactly.
That's what's supposed to make it reality TV. But you should not be dictating what the people do in that moment. Like, you should not be saying, oh, I like this girl, so I want to keep her on here. If the whole concept of the show is the Bachelor gets to choose. And if the Bachelor is choosing in conjunction with producers, the Bachelor should know that in advance. Don't tell me as the Bachelor that I get full control over who stays and who goes, and then get mad at me because I eliminate somebody that you like. It's like, I'm sorry. Am I not supposed to be finding love? I'll give you another example. There was one reality show. It was actually my favorite. Last Comic Standing. Back when they had comedians. There were 3 judges during one season of Last Comic Standing. There was Drew Carey. There was Brett Butler, who I got for a Darkside comedy episode at a later date.
I interviewed her. She was drunk. I went to a show, got to interview her, and something happened to the audio. I have a picture of Brett Butler. Did you know that?
Yes, I've seen it on your Facebook. What I'm saying is there was Drew Carey, it was Brett Butler, and I can't remember the third judge off the top of my head, but I know there was 3. And they were judging the comics that performed. Well, at the end of the episode, Jay Moore, who was hosting the show at the time, comes out and announces the 10 comics that got chosen. They're going to go into the house and do the challenges and compete to see who's the last comic standing. So they got their top 10. And apparently, Brett Butler was livid, as was Drew, because a lot of the comics that got picked, they didn't choose. There were people they voted for that didn't make it, and there were people that voted didn't make it. And Brett Butler got so mad, she stormed off. She literally got up out of her chair and left. Drew followed her. They're in the back, and they're apologizing to the comedians because they were like, we picked most of you. And Drew was fucking livid. So the producer of NBC at the time had to go talk to Drew. And Drew's sitting there going, what the fuck is this? Why are you bringing us in here to judge? You didn't take most of our choices. And then he's explaining to them, you vote in conjunction with the network. And Drew goes, and do people know this? Is this knowledge to everybody? They said, yeah, we mentioned it in the credits. Like, you mentioned it in the credits. And that's when Drew finally calmed down and said, okay, well, that's information you should have told us. And he said, I know, we apologize. We thought we made that clear. So Drew eventually calmed down. Brett wanted to rip everybody's heads off. Yeah. But that's when the producer of NBC had to be interviewed and finally said, yes, they vote in conjunction with the network. So Last Comic Standing makes that clear, that the network is also choosing who they want in addition to the judges. Sometimes the network might pick somebody the judge doesn't like, or the judge might pick somebody the network doesn't like. Right. But at least they tell you. On The Bachelor, they didn't tell them shit. They have all these bachelors walking in here thinking, this is our show, and I'm looking for love. But no, it turns out I'm looking for love. Y'all motherfuckers looking for ratings, and you just fucking lie to everybody. If you want to lie to the viewers, that's one thing, because you're trying to keep a secret to keep a show. But at least let the Bachelor know that you're trying to manipulate shit to get a say in this.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I have no respect for the Bachelor, because they not only manipulate the Bachelor by basically standing in the way of him falling in love, but also they're creating content at the expense of their mental health. And that's disgusting.
That's not good.
So that, ladies and gentlemen, will wrap up this episode of Boochcast Reviews, Darkside of the 2000s. Derek, I guess I'll say thanks for joining me.
Well, I stayed up this time. I did kind of doing my own stuff, editing. I got everything completed, but I was still a little dozy.
Well, you'll get a chance to rest up because, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back next week, but it'll just be me and Zach for this episode. Derek will not be here. And we're going to be talking about a celebrity who is hands down the craziest motherfucker in Hollywood. caused a lot of controversy in the 2000s, had one of the greatest rivalries of the 2000s with a certain individual, and a man who nowadays is loved by all, and that is, of course, the one and only Charlie Sheen.
Oh, yes.
Charlie
Yes.
Sheen, addicted to winning.
It's all about winning.
Derek, one more time, where can people find you on social media? Plug your stuff.
DerekShapiro'Show.com, D-Shap in the morning, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9. Comes on right before the Boochcast rerun show, 9 o'clock in the morning on the DerekShapiro'Show.com, Linden Channel 2. Also, I'm on VinnyTheBooch.com too for D-Shap in the morning. So you can find me at VinnyTheBooch.com. You can find Boochcast on DSSTVNation.com, as well as countrymusics.yellowcity.com, countrymusics.go.com, as well as DSSInternetTalkRadio.yellowcity.com, DSSInternetTalkRadio.go.com. The third Thursday of every month is my episode monthly show, and Vinny is my parent almost every month on DerekShapiro'Show.com, Linden Channel 1. It's 8 o'clock, third Thursday of every month. It's on VinnyTheBooch.com. It's on OpenMindsRadio.go.com, and it's on Spotify for podcasts, Spotify Listen Notes, Radio Public, TuneIn, Odyssey, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Amazon.com, Amazon Music, and Audible by Amazon.
All right. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, make sure you follow us on all of our podcast platforms. The link is down in the description box below. Follow us on all our social media platforms. Link is down in the description box below. And of course, you can support the Boochcast by going to podcasters.spotify.com/pod/show/the Boochcast/support. That link is down in the description box below. And of course, as always, hit the subscribe button and ring that bell to be notified so you never miss another episode of Boochcast Reviews Darkside of the 2000s, as well as other additional Boochcast YouTube content. We'll talk to you guys next time. Until then, pizza, baby.
Pizza, baby, with pineapples on it. No, just kidding. Pepperoni.